Vegas, they love Georgia. Vegas hates TCU for some weird reason. They were 7.5-point underdogs against Michigan. Now, I tend to listen to Vegas a lot, but they've been consistently wrong about TCU. So I'm not listening to Vegas anymore with TCU. So the national championship, TCU versus Georgia is giving 12.5, over under 62.5. I love TCU and the over. I don't think Georgia is 12.5 points better than TCU. I think this game is going to be close and high scoring. And it's probably going to come down to something very close, like the last two games.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a game that could go over, and I think first of all, I don't know what it is with some, like you said. I think they hate TCU. How can you see what they just did to a Michigan team? You know how great they played to beat a team that, let's be having it. You know, TCU played great, but Michigan's the better team. Better team lost talent wise, lost that game.
Yeah,
They were able to go out there and beat them physically, and win a game. They were double digit underdogs once again, and you're giving them minus 12.5. Do I think Georgia's the better team? Absolutely. Do I think there's a 12.5 point difference? Absolutely not. That's one of the highest in championship game history. Like, come on, guys. You got to give them more respect to that. Especially, this is a team that thrives in the underdog role. They played in all year. God, they were unranked for half the season. They had like 4 or 5 games that were decided in the fourth quarter by like a touchdown possession. They lost the Big 12 championship game. They had to hope that the committee would be nice to them pretty much. And I think the committee obviously made the right call letting them in. You know, they've been able to deal with adversity all year. So that, you know, they're not going to be, I don't think they'll be intimidated going up against a team like UGA, but I do think UGA is the better team. I think it'll obviously be high scoring. I think something like 38-28 Georgia type score, I think could be a very high possibility. But keys to the game. First of all, Max Duggan's mobility. The linebackers and the front four need to be on their A game. This is a team that runs a lot of option. Whether Miller or DeMercado, they can run the ball well. So that front four, guys like Jalen Carter, Zion Logue, Nazir Stackhouse, they need to get after the quarterback, not just in the passing game. They need to be able to try and contain the option because that's a big part of TCU's offense. Duggan is very mobile. He's very quick. He's a tough SOB, by the way. We saw that in the fourth quarter of that Big 12 championship game, just willing his team to overtime pretty much when they were pretty much outplayed 75% of the game at least. Receivers, Johnston, very speedy guy. If we do not put pressure on Max Duggan, Johnston can easily exploit this secondary. So this game will be decided, as always. I've always told Garth, 99.99% of football games, other than flukes, decided by who wins the line of scrimmage. If they cannot get pressure on Max Duggan, if they let him escape like they did TJ Stroud, TCU can beat them deep in that secondary. On the other side for the Georgia offense, the main thing is ball control. You cannot turn the ball over like Michigan did so many times. Now, do I think Stetson Bennett is going to throw 2 pick sixes and whatnot like JJ McCarthy? I do not. But obviously, he had a turnover against Ohio State that was pretty costly. Ohio State scored a touchdown off of it. You got to take care of the football. They got to possess the ball. Now, one thing I would say that I clearly saw TCU couldn't do against Michigan is stop the run. What has Georgia always been good at? Running the ball. They need to give the ball 20 to 30 times between guys like McIntosh, Edwards, Kendall Melton, Brandon Robinson. These guys need to be pounding the rock consistently. If TCU can't stop it, don't go away from it. And then off of that, you need to run play action passing to guys like A.D. Mitchell in the passing game, obviously. Brock Bowers is the main one. He's the key focal point. Once they started getting Bowers involved in the fourth quarter, Ohio State couldn't stop the offense at all. Obviously, Arian Smith just had a great game as well. Guys like that, and Darnell Washington as well, target those guys. But keep it simple. None of this stupid play like the friggin' there was another play in that Ohio State game where Bennett fucked up because of his zone read. McIntosh had a wide open touchdown to be 7-0. He screwed that up. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple options, simple, halfback dives, whatnot. If you want to try a trick play here and there, fine, but you don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to do some stupid option or pitch, flea flicker type play and risk a stupid turnover when you don't need it.
That's kind of what Michigan got wrong.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Just stick to the basics. Stick to what has gotten Georgia to this point, Nick, where they won a championship last year and they have a potential to win another one. If they can win physically, which I believe they can, but they need to do it because if they don't, that secondary can be Swiss cheese. Um, I've never seen a team with such a good defense back-to-back years have such terrible secondaries. It's quite frankly crazy to even think about. But win up front on defense, run the ball a lot offensively, get the play action going early, get Stetson, some short confidence building routes early. And I believe they can win this game. Do I think it's going to be like 45-6, like some trolls online say it's going to be? Absolutely not. I think TCU will keep it close. Like you said, a good defense in the playoffs tends to go out the window, other than rare exceptions. Believe this will be a high scoring game, like both of the semifinals games were. But like I said, I think UGA can get it done. Win a game something like 38-28, 42-31, maybe something like that. But as long as TCU can't stop the running game, I don't see Georgia losing it.
Right. So I do want to talk a little bit more about, I want to elaborate a little bit about how much Vegas hates TCU. The opening line was 14.5. Within minutes, it went down to 13.5 and then went down to 12.5. I've never seen a line change drastically so quick. I mean, usually a change like that of 1 point happens within a couple of days. When the opening line is 14.5 and then went down to like 13 or 12.5 within minutes, that was madness. And I actually made the bet last minute trying to get the 14.5, but I just missed it. And I ended up getting the 13.5 bet. And then I also ended up taking TCU 12 plus 12.5. So, I mean, that's just another crazy thing with it. I think that you also have to take into account the fact that Max Duggan is a better quarterback than Georgia's ever faced, other than maybe Hendon Hooker. At least throughout this. I mean, I think Max Duggan is a better runner.
CJ Stroud, you
Than
think he's
CJ
better
Stroud.
but passing wise, you think he's better than CJ Stroud?
Not necessarily, but I think he's a better overall quarterback and he's a better overall runner. And that might, just the fact that he's a better runner might give Georgia a lot of trouble.
I could see that, yeah.
So, I mean, you do have to take that into account also. So that's going to be another very tough thing for Georgia. And obviously another thing is, well, is Stetson Bennett going to play the same game he did last game? Like, if he struggles in the first half and they have to play from behind, I mean, it's not easy to beat TCU playing from behind.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just going to be very tough. Overall, I think the game's going to be very close. I think Georgia's a slightly better team. But like you said, TCU is always good when they're the underdog. The one time that they lost this season, they were the favorites. So clearly they thrive in this underdog role.
Mm-hmm. One key point I want to make before we throw it over to Garth here. The running game obviously is TCU's biggest strength. Well, Garth mentioned earlier, what did Ohio State's running game do against Georgia? Not much at all. Tennessee,
Ohio State's run game wasn't that good.
not much. Exactly. But Georgia's elite.
Yeah.
Georgia's elite against pretty much any running game. And early in the year, guys like Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams were doing pretty good. I know they're mainly a pass focused team, but Georgia's run defense is way better than their pass off a defense. So if TCU cannot get the running game going, mainly the option, like if they stop the normal running game, fine. But if they're letting Duggan, like you said, use that mobility to run all over them, it'll be really tough for him to. It'd have to be a massive shootout type game for them to win it. So we'll see what they do defensively, but yeah, do I think Max Duggan's as good a passer as CJ Stroud? No, but he has the mobility. CJ Stroud isn't mobile at all. I don't know why some people think he is.
Because he's an Ohio State quarterback, and they
exactly. But yeah, no, we'll see what happens. Look, Duggan has all the heart in the world. I mean, that guy has absolute guts. He's a warrior. He's not going to give up easily. He can take all the lickings that we give to him. So we'll see what happens. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of these games tend to be shootouts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact with these playoff games. They just all tend to be very high scoring.
I honestly really like Georgia in this one, guys, because I would say that really the only advantage I give in the side of TCU is that they might be able to take advantage of that Georgia secondary. But I will say this about Georgia this season. Every time they've had a game where kind of their defense has been called out by their own coaching staff or by their fans or media, whatever, usually the next game they come and they really bring it and they play a hell of a lot better. So I'm expecting that group in particular to step up as well as just the whole defense as a whole. But also, too, I will say this. I think Max Duggan is a fantastic quarterback. But I don't think that he has the wide receiver core that Ohio State has. Even with Marvin Harrison going down, that wide receiver core was still really good. A lot of guys making big plays. TCU, it's really just one guy that can burn you. So, it's a lot easier when it's just one guy because you can play a lot of bracket coverage. You can spy safeties over the top to kind of help out the DB so that he's not stuck on an island. And like Noah said, the run defense is elite. So I think that they could really try and make TCU one-dimensional. I agree with you guys. I do think it'll be a good game, though. I don't think that Georgia is just going to come in and absolutely blow them out and shut down their offense completely. I do just slightly like Georgia better in this one, and I could see them winning by 10 points, like a touchdown and a field goal.
I don't think this game is going to be any more than one score. Unless there's some type of give me touchdown at the end of the game, like TCU's lateraling it and Georgia intercepts it, and then they run it like in the Relia Quest Bowl. Other than that, I don't really see this being more than one score.
Like I said, I think Georgia should really, try to pound the rock. I think a game where they don't let TCU, possess the ball a lot, run a lot of plays, I think that favors them because, like I said, they've been able to run the football all year, no matter what defense they've played, and there's a lot of good ones in the SEC. The issue is they've kind of gone away from it for really no reason, just because they felt like, they wanted to change up the play calling and throw the ball. And like I said, Noah, as a Georgia fan, talking to him a lot during games this year, he was really frustrated with that. Like, hey, guys, we're running the ball really well. They're not stopping it. Why are we all of a sudden just abandoning it altogether? So, I want to see them run the ball a lot because I think that's going to help them.
Yeah, well, I think TCU's running back depth is their run game is much, much better than Ohio State's. So, that's certainly going to be another factor.
Also, one guy that none of us mentioned, and I kind of got a little bit of a bias towards him because he's a nephew of a former San Diego Charger, LaDainian Tomlinson. They have one hell of a defensive back on that TCU defense, looking for him to have a big game.
Yeah, he was great against Michigan as well. Good old Hodges Tomlinson. He's a stud.